What assurances can you offer them as that expropriation process seems really inevitable?
When it comes to determining an alignment, one of the criteria is to minimize impact. We're not going to get impact to zero.
On February 26th in Peterborough, Ontario, hundreds filled the Alto open house, a crowd divided between optimism and concern over a proposed $90 billion high-speed electric rail mega project. With 7 stations mandated and Peterborough vying for one of them, one city councillor even told Global News the municipality is actively lobbying Alto to secure the stop.
It looks like the ideal location for Alto to develop their station for this part of the region.
We've already made decisions just this week to encourage Alto to build the station in the Cold Springs area. We've actually dedicated money to a secondary plan to let them know we are serious. We are welcoming this development to our city, and council is very supportive.
But beyond the promise of 300-kilometer-per-hour trains and an estimated 18 million riders annually, there are serious issues around things like land expropriation, environmental impacts, efficiency, long-term costs, and an ambitious timeline which, if California and Toronto's Eglinton LRT are any indication, will flop. The proposed line would cut through pristine forests, farmland, and wetlands, reshaping landscapes across the corridor from Toronto to Quebec City, whose residents will be displaced and properties destroyed for a project with no maintenance plan, no fares, no finalized design, despite roughly $4 billion already invested.
It's generational, it's livelihoods of people.
I'm nauseous. I feel like I've been kicked in the gut.
There's no real downside to it.
Just looking forward to seeing it happen.
We already got Via Rail.
It's a great idea in theory, but what they're actually proposing doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Honestly, I just hope the Conservatives get in and axe the whole thing.
Inside the tightly controlled open house that drew several hundred attendees across 2 sessions, Alto's Senior Director of Public and Government Relations, Peter Paz, agreed to give us an exclusive one-on-one interview as company teams continue their expense-paid tour across the region. Check it out. I guess right off of the hop, what is the plan?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. We are in our very early phase of consultation. We became a Crown Corporation focused on high-speed rail in early 2025. We brought in our public-private partner in March of that same year. So the focus over the past 8 or 9 months has been to identify the corridor, begin the work on an impact assessment, and develop a consultation plan where we can go out early before decisions are made. What we didn't want to do was put lines on a map and ask people which one they hated the least. So we wanted to create a wide study corridor, about 10 kilometers wide on average. It can go as wide as 30 kilometers, where there are many different options that we could assess within those areas. So we want to get feedback from residents from Toronto all the way to Quebec City, urban, rural, suburban communities, to get their feedback, because no one knows their community better than the people who live in it.
Mm-hmm. What has some of that feedback been like so far?
Yeah, so on the positive side, there's been a lot of communities that have said it's about time. They're really excited about the project. They're skeptical. We've heard about high speed for a very long time. Is it really going to happen? We've never been this far in terms of developing a high-speed rail project. It's the first time the Canadian government has ever gone out and engaged on high-speed rail, which is really exciting.
Expropriation provisions, should they be adopted by Parliament, that land acquisition phase would begin almost immediately.
And then there's also really valid concerns that we're hearing from residents, especially in rural communities. They're worried about land acquisition, they're worried about severance. There's concerns around the environment and the impact on the environment, and also effects of tourism, especially in communities in Eastern Ontario. And these have all been really important inputs that we've been getting from members of communities from across the corridor that will help inform decision making as we further define and identify the actual alignment.
Mm-hmm. Because the plan is well, there isn't a concrete one yet. It's still very much in this sort of development phase, from what I gather.
If there are 5 stages, we're in stage 0, stage 1 right now, and we intentionally came out early to engage to get as much feedback as possible. And the response that we've had since starting in January has been overwhelming. Well over 10,000 surveys completed, over 6,000 comments on our website. We've had over 5,000 people come to our open houses across the corridor. Today in Peterborough, we had almost 500 people in the first 4 hours this afternoon. There's been a lot of interest in the project, positive, neutral, and negative. And the fact that people have been coming out and sharing their ideas has been incredibly appreciative on our end.
I have been hearing from some of the more rural communities that they're just hearing about this. And with the consultation set to close the end of next month, March, we're pretty much there. Do you feel as though you've given people enough of an opportunity, you mentioned the numbers have been great, to voice their concerns or share maybe even some of their ideas?
Yeah, I think there's always an opportunity to keep consulting, and we will. This is wave one of many consultations that we want to have with communities as we narrow the corridor to get to an actual alignment. We've had 26 open houses, 10 virtual sessions, 5 in English and 5 in French. We have our interactive website as well. And then we've been doing roughly 35 stakeholder roundtables across the corridor as well over a 10-week period. It is a short period, but also quite a long period in terms of a consultation on a study area. We will keep coming out. This isn't the only time we're going to be out talking to residents. Feedback can keep coming in even after March 30th. But we had to have an end date for this round of consultation.
Right. How do you utilize that feedback? Is it something, how do you aggregate that into a meaningful engagement?
What a great question. So one of the things that we are going to develop at the end of our consultation program is a what you heard, or a public consultation report that will talk about what we did, what we heard, and how we're going to respond. And when you have tens of thousands of comments, you break them into themes: environment, land, and then all of those comments go to our technical teams for analysis. And they're broken into those categories, and that feedback helps inform decision-making around the actual alignment. There are multiple criteria that we're looking at in how you choose the actual route on the ground, the actual rail. And it starts with social acceptability is really important. Indigenous, constructability, the environment, cost, all of those factors weigh into the decision making. So when we talk to residents, we tell them your input is critically important to help inform decision making.
Now, I look toward other case studies, for instance, California, where their high-speed rail is multi-billions over budget, no ridership, nothing delivered, tangibly delivered. The Eglinton Crosstown in Toronto, the LRT, same story. Via Rail, for instance, their ridership is plummeting. Their service delivery, I think 30% of trains arrived on time and on schedule last year. A little bit of a different scenario, but pricing there is also skyrocketing. What makes this any different?
Yeah, fair question. Two parts to the answer. The first is one of the things that we are doing is looking at lessons learned, both the positive and the negative. When you think about our project, one of the first elements that we did was bring in a private partner that will help us design, build, operate, and maintain. So they're with us from start to finish. 3 of the firms that are part of the consortium have direct experience in delivering high-speed rail in Europe. And then we have 3 firms from Canada that have direct experience with heavy rail and high-order transit like subways and LRTs.
The proposed measures are critical to deliver the project with certainty, on time and on budget. Without greater predictability, I will be back here in front of this committee in 2 years to explain delays and cost overrun.
There are a lot of lessons learned in Canada. But there are also a lot of successes in Europe and Asia on how to deliver high-speed rail. Whether you look to Spain, France, Germany, and then you go to Asia and look at Japan, there are a lot of success stories that we also have to look at. You have to look at mistakes and areas of growth, but also where it worked really well.
And arguably in a different climate and smaller or shorter geographical area to cover, I would say, fairly.
Yeah, obviously European countries are smaller in geographic size. We're looking at 1,000 kilometers. If you look to Spain, Madrid to Barcelona is roughly the same distance as Montreal to Toronto, for example, which is the most significant portion of our corridor when it comes to ridership. The second part I wanted to address, with high-speed rail having a dedicated corridor, helps ensure reliability, frequency of delivery. So higher order on-time performance when you have your own dedicated track and you're not reliant on others who own or are on that track as well. So you have more control, which will allow for a greater certainty for customers.
Which I think is where that Via Rail kind of discrepancy comes into play when they're sharing that line with CN, and they're tied up in some litigation there. But why can't this run parallel to that existing rail?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question, and one we've been hearing a lot at in open houses. One of the challenges we have with that existing rail area is actually the space capacity to have additional rail. High speed requires up to 60 meters of right-of-way, so fence to fence, you need 60 meters, because you'll have 2-track plus the electrical catenaries and then access roads, so which require 40 to 60 meters of space. When you look at the existing corridor along Lake Ontario, especially as you get into more urban centers like Durham region and Toronto, you've got Via Rail, you've got freight, and you've got GO. So the capacities are quite a challenge. So having our own dedicated rail, trying to follow existing corridors, is going to be really important to ensure that we can deliver it on time and to provide that reliability that we're looking for.
What reassurances do you have for rural residents or business owners, or those especially who rely on tourism? What assurances can you offer them as that expropriation process seems really inevitable?
So when it comes to determining an alignment, one of the criteria is to minimize impact. We're not going to get impact to zero. But we want to ensure that by following existing corridors, whether natural or man-made like roads or railways, it minimizes the impact and the need for the requirement of land. That doesn't mean we won't be able or we won't need to acquire land. We will. It's 1,000 kilometers. There are going to be curves that are going to require land to be accessed. We are taking a human-centered approach with property acquisition. Ideally, we want an agreement with every landowner that we talk to. We want to make sure that it's fair market value or better. Each individual negotiation is individual in that nature, and there are different circumstances behind when you're negotiating with a property owner. But we want to ensure that we try to achieve an amicable agreement as opposed to going straight to expropriation.
One other thing, and I have a lot of questions, and I'm not going to get to all of them tonight. I won't drag this out, but I would like to keep that rapport open, if possible, as this process proceeds, because I heard a lot of concerns and positives from people here tonight. It was very much a mixed bag, and I'm sure you're getting that sentiment as well. In terms of maintenance, so we know this comes with a massive price tag, $90 billion right out of the gate, and if history of those other examples are any indication, it's going to be much higher than that. But in terms of maintenance, annual, kind of an annual ballpark number, what does that look like for a system of this magnitude?
Well, first on the investment, we are looking at about $60 to $90 billion as a working assumption. By having a development phase instituted early and spending 4 years on design, impact assessments, engagement, it allows you to have a higher certainty on cost when you get to shovel ready, which is an important step from going from development to actual construction. So we definitely are striving to stay within that $60 to $90 billion range, because every dollar that we all earn as residents of Canada, our tax dollars are well earned, and we want to make sure that we're spending it properly. With respect to maintenance, I don't have the number for you right now, but I'm happy to see what we have, because we're still focused on the alignment portion of the design work, and we haven't gotten into the operation and maintenance phase of that work just yet, because right now we're working on getting that alignment set up.
And that, I assume, will be part of that plan as it comes
part
forward?
Of the 4-year development cycle is talking about the alignment, the construction, the operations, and the maintenance. All of that is part of the development phase.
Stop this train before it leaves the station. Go to don'tgetrailroaded.ca right now.